The Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee meeting. Today is Wednesday, May 10th, 2023 at 3:30 p.m. We will begin with our call to order. Madam Clerk?
Alderman Vollmer,
Present.
Alderwoman Keys,
Here.
Alderman Browning,
Here.
Alderman Aldrich,
Present.
Chair Schweitzer.
Present.
We have 5 present. We have a quorum.
Wonderful, thank you. We do not have any minutes to approve, and we have one board bill. Alderwoman Shameem Clark-Hubbard, you're recognized on Board Bill number 7.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Microphone falling apart. Microphone falling apart. I'm gonna leave this alone, STSCV.
There you go.
I'll let y'all work on that. Okay, was the clerk gonna read the preamble for the bill? Okay. Go ahead.
Board Bill number 7, introduced by Alderwoman Shameem Clark-Hubbard, pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, an ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on the 5,000 block of Cates Avenue, the 6,000 block of Westminster Avenue, the 5,800 and 5,900 blocks of DeGiverville Avenue, and the 5,800 and 5,900 blocks of Pershing Avenue, and the 4,500, 4,600, and 4,700 blocks of Evans Avenue.
Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Thank you so much, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. This is a speed hump bill. Normally, I would have had some of my constituents here to give testimonies of the need, right, of these speed humps. If you know or are a little bit familiar with the 10th Ward, these go from probably some of the most southwest corners of the ward to the most northeast corners of the ward. But what this came from was door knocking during the campaign session. So I felt that I could carry this for them instead of them coming out because of me going up and down those blocks. And again, hearing the need and then following up after we took session to see if I would still be able to support them on these speed humps. And so that's where we are. And I ask for favorable consideration and do pass recommendation on Board Bill 7.
Thank you so much. I'll entertain any questions from the committee members, starting with Alderman Vollmer.
Alderwoman, you feel like this is kind of a whole lot to go through just to put speed humps
Yes.
in the city of St. Louis? And do you feel that if, I think that we could eliminate this process and make it more of a way to do it, a comprehensive study of the whole city and then put them in without having to pass board bills and ordinances would be a much better way of doing this?
I absolutely think there's some
I
best
think that
practices.
speed humps are a necessity with the way our traffic problems are these days and with the lack of policing that we need everything we can get to our powers. So I guess you have no problem with me voting for this, but I hope that I'm gathering some momentum to maybe change the process of how we do this.
Absolutely. I think there are some best practices that we can look at and definitely a more comprehensive practice for us to be able to get these
As opposed to going door
done.
to door and seeing, do you want a speed hump?
Absolutely.
No, most people would rather wake up and see it there.
Absolutely.
All right, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderwoman Keys.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Aldrich.
No questions, Madam Chair.
Alderman Browning. Vice Chair Browning.
Just wanted to ask if you've been in communication with the fire department on this, and if there's any issues with any of the routes and in their ability to drive their trucks over them.
That's a great question. In the past, this is probably an unnumbered amount of speed humps that we put in, especially in the last session. We've never had an issue with that. I think that if that comes up, it'll come up in the street department side when they come out and engineer where they'll put them on the block. I know some alders specifically say addresses they want them in. I leave that to the purview of the street department and their expertise. But again, if there is an issue with that, I'm sure they will bring that up.
All right, thank you, and yeah, I echo Alderman Vollmer's comments that surely we can find a better way to do this in the future.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I have no questions at this point unless there's any further comment. I would entertain a motion for a due pass recommendation for Board Bill number 7.
Second.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderman Vollmer,
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys,
Aye.
Alderman Browning,
Aye.
Alderman Aldred,
Aye.
Chair Schweitzer.
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes.
Wonderful. By your vote, we have passed Board Bill number 7 out of the Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee with a due pass recommendation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
That concludes our board bills for review. We have no resolutions for review, so we will move to committee discussions. At this time, I would like to ask Clerk Higgs to please read the description of this committee from the rules.
The Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee shall consider all matters pertaining to essential public services, including the maintenance, equipment, operations, service, and assessment of rates and charges of public utilities or services, whether city-owned or franchise, such as water, electricity, gas, sewer, telephone, internet, and refuse. The committee also considers all matters pertaining to urban infrastructure used by the general public, including streets, alleys, sidewalks, traffic lights, signage, and parking. Maintains communication with the Director of Public Utilities and the Department of Streets, Traffic, and Refuse.
Thank you so much. At this time, I would love to give the opportunity for committee members to discuss their priorities, thoughts, concerns, things they've heard from their constituents around this topic, just to set us up as a committee working together during this session to address these issues. Alderman Vollmer, if you mind kicking us off with some of your thoughts?
Well, no, actually, I let some of my thoughts be known in the questioning period. That the thing you find out is that traffic conditions are out of control in the city of St. Louis. Speeding is out of control, just people ignoring things. I mean, I know signs, everyone wants a stop sign, but people are blowing stop signs, they're blowing through electric stop signs. Speed humps are one calming way, but the process, I believe, is just so long and drawn out that we should be able to take a study quickly and say that these streets, especially streets in between, like most of my ward is in between Kings Highway and Hampton Avenue. So every street in between is a cut through. So what happens is, to avoid something, people are just zipping through. And the demand for speed humps is in my ward is every street that is not a major snow route wants one. So I would feel that we should be able to try and streamline that. That's one of the main things we need to do. Working with getting, street commissioners to come out and, I know the paving season is coming up and we have the ARPA money that's going to be used for a lot of this. But getting out with street commissioners in the old days, the gentleman who used to be Tommy Guerin, he's no longer with us, passed away, but after every successor I would take out and we would drive the ward. You book a day. Now with a larger ward, it might take 2 days to do, but you want to get to know your streets and know what kind of condition you're in. What I do, typically, when you become an alderman, you'll find out that you're going to take longer routes to get where you want to go from your house, maybe just to the grocery store, because you're going to inspect things that people call you about. But you just want to make sure that on a daily basis, you see what's going on and make notes. It's much easier than having to pull over with a notebook like I did 20 years ago. Now you can actually do it, but we need a comprehensive study of this, and I think we are the best delegates to put those things towards the street department, and help our constituents out, because we have a ton of money that needs to be put to use properly, and we now have a chance to actually do that. So I think it's upon us to take that. But the number one priority for me is making speed humps much easier to install and any other traffic calming devices we can. There's been some things that have failed. If you notice those little bump outs with the white plastic pipes, you've seen those in parts of the city because people just ran over the pipes. Those are along Oakland Avenue, not in my ward, but close to it. On Watson, I saw them. So let's go to things that actually work and look at more long-term things that'll help out. That's my goal.
Thank you so much. Alderwoman Keys?
I would concur with everything that Alderman Vollmer has said about speed humps, as well as in my ward, I'm actually asking for some streets that are very wide to maybe put 4 of those big, I think they call them Shameem pots, but the round pots, so that they have to go around and they can't do donuts. So anything that's going to make this process easier and safer for our communities is better.
Thank you, Vice Chair Browning.
Yeah, I echo the sentiments of my colleagues, and I also think that there's a need to address how our utilities interact with our infrastructure and making sure that we are not undoing the work of repaving our streets so quickly with upgrades to utilities, making sure that we take a look at how our city handles that and have whole street repaving when utility work is done. I also think that a comprehensive plan and an eventual move away from using ward capital to maintain streets is something that we should be studying, take great thought at looking at, because whatever needs to be replacing this current system we have needs to work better than the system we currently have. No one would look at our streets in St. Louis and think that this is working well right now. And I think that is especially evident when you travel our city from ward to ward and see that, we don't actually travel our city by ward. We travel our city on the roads that connect us. And so it should not come out of ward funds to maintain some of these roads that the whole city uses. So these are just a few of the things I'd like to take a look at this session and see if we can really improve our streets for our people, make them safer, and really aim to have as few pedestrian injuries or deaths as possible. Other cities have done it, and I think we can do it here too.
Thank you. Alderman Aldridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and also appreciate you kind of opening up the space to the committee members so everyone can kind of get their input at the first meeting of how, we can move forward, and just appreciate your willingness to hear from your colleagues. I'm really excited to serve on this committee. I think, like a lot of my colleagues have already said, the biggest thing, we have a lot of things facing St. Louis. I think crime, education, housing, and I think a lot of times when we talk about crime, we miss how safer streets can be a help with that. And I think this committee can look at different options of how we make our streets safe. If it's the bump out things that Alderman Vaccaro talked about, or the Shameem pots, or Vomer. Sorry about that, Alderman. And also happy to be on this committee to see the Hawaiian shirt pretty often from Alderman Vomer, or from what Alderwoman Keys talked about for as the Shameem pots. What can we do in St. Louis that I think in creative ways can really slow down traffic? Because what we know in our city is people, like to go fast and sometimes not pay attention to the stop signs and the red light. So really look forward to figure out how do we make our public infrastructure more 21st century, but also more safer for the people. And like Alderman Browning said, is with utilities, a lot of things we've seen recently, I know since I've been knocking doors and just in general, is a lot of utility companies are out doing work, but after that work is done, a lot of streets have been so destroyed and not properly filled to make sure that before the utility company came in that that street was completely finished and taken care of in a full manner. One thing that I'm really hopefully excited about, maybe that will come through this committee as we're talking about what we can use ward capital for, I look forward to having that conversation on ward capital and the ways that those funds are distributed out to wards, and how do we make that more of an equitable conversation instead of equal, which I think would be, we all have these issues in our wards facing things that we can use our ward capital on, but how do we help other wards to be able to have a little bit more love so that we can catch everybody up, because I don't think each ward is on an equal playing field right now.
Thank you all for that input. I agree with what was said. I think a lot of what was said, at least. One of the things that I asked the clerk to put in our drive today was the TrailNet 2022 crash report. One of the things that it brings to light is that in 2022, there were 173 traffic deaths in St. Louis City and County combined. So we're talking about life and death issues here, and I think we need to approach streets and safety on our streets accordingly. I think that some of the things that the reasons why we're all here is that we believe that there are some sort of policy solutions to some of the problems that we face in St. Louis. Otherwise, sometimes I feel like maybe my time would be better spent getting a CDL and getting on a trash truck, because if there's nothing that we can do as aldermen to improve it, it's definitely hard to wonder why we're all here. So hopefully there are some policy changes that we all can entertain during the session to move things forward. I am hoping to, I've reached out now to the director or to the mayor's office to get with the director of streets and of utilities to have them present to us about some of the issues that they're facing. Ideally, we'll learn some of the ways that policies impact their work negatively and how we may be able to fix some things on that front. I'd also really like to entertain the opportunity for the public to comment, to come and speak with us about what their concerns are and what they want our priorities to be. So I'll be reaching out to you all about scheduling those. The other option, of course, is to go and see the facilities that our streets department, our utilities are using, and what is happening very much on the ground. So is that, I would hope that those sorts of visits, sounds like from Alderman Vollmer, going around and with the streets department in his ward was something he was interested in, but would you all be interested in doing those sorts of on-site tours and visits?
I will be.
Nods.
Sure.
Yeah, great, okay. We would probably schedule them sometimes that was not our regular committee time, but we'll see what sort of bills come through. If it can be our regular committee time, that might be best for everyone for those visits. Great. So the next thing I'm hoping to be able to do is have public comment around these items that we will be discussing in our committee that would need a little bit more notice time. And I think that we can probably make that happen for next week's meeting to invite the public to speak and have an opportunity for all of us to publicize that we will be asking them to come and give us their input. One of the things that is also, as we also funded through the ARPA allocation of Board Bill, I believe 120, was a Safe Streets for All planning process. So I think we all need to hear an update on what's going on there and how that affects our funding of streets and how we will be moving forward with that. Sounds like we have a lot to work on. I wrote down just briefly speed hump changes, ease of implementing traffic calming, working with utilities after streets are worked on and how we all are accountable for that, how we pay for streets, 21st century streets, and how ward capital plays into all of this. So we have quite a bit to work on here. Is there anything else that anyone would like to add to the discussion today? Okay, seeing no further discussion, I told y'all I'd be short. Do we have any written testimony or anything?
We have none.
Okay. Any announcements?
We have none.
Okay. Excuse members, everyone's present. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motion, so moved.
Okay, we have a motion from the Alderman Aldridge and a second from Alderwoman Keys. Wonderful. Thank you so much. We are adjourned.